So I started carrying, switched from carrying a traditional pocket knife to a more tactical knife when I was about 14 years old. So we're talking about 16 years ago. And that was when I first started noticing them becoming more popular. They were really cool, really handy to have, something that, useful, I guess, something that was just that quick to open, and really it's hard to beat that. In certain applications, of course, you get a larger blade, more substantial. It locks. You can use it for more stuff. But honestly, I mean, as a 14-year-old, it was just cool looking, to have something that they didn't have the axis lock. The first one I had was a really cheap and well worn by the time I got it. And you just kind of did the thumb thing like that, and like a little flick of the wrist. And I started carrying them after that. So why would I make the switch back to a traditional pocket knife? And so my reasoning for that, first of all, it's a traditional item. It's something that keeps us rooted, especially as a man. It's something special to carry something that's like what my dad carried, what my grandpa, or what my dad still carries, what my grandpas all carried, great grandparents carried, all my neighbors and everybody like that. They carried this type of knife, and so there's just something special about that, especially as a man who wants to stay in touch with, those roots of traditional masculinity, to carry something like that. It's also, as I've mentioned in my other videos, it's a heritage style item. There's an element of antiquity to it. Nobody's going to be, do you really think that when you passed away, that your grandkids are going to be caring about your Kershaw or your SOG or your Benchmade or Spyderco or anything like that, as much as they would carry about something that's just beautifully handcrafted, that's just got, this traditional kind of element to it? Maybe so. I don't really think so. I think that the way these are used, they just get more character to them. Like when the bone or the wood or whatever starts getting worn, the patina on the blade. I've already been trying to develop the patina on my blade a little bit, not cheating, not forcing it, just using it, and that just adds character to the tool. And that's something, people can remember, watching Grandpa Whittle or an elderly neighbor cutting off a plug of tobacco with it. Also it's traditional for me as well, because it was my first type of pocket knife. I've shared before, one of the earlier pocket knives I carried, it was cheap, of course, but it was a good tool. And so that's kind of why it was I still carried it. It was still useful for cutting string, cutting open boxes, things like that, or just like making a pointed stick out of a non-pointed stick. Introduction to whittling right there. It's a pleasure to hold and use one of these. Like just the jigged bone on it is just, it feels so good in the hand, and it's very nice. And the two-handed opening is kind of a downside for a lot of folks, but there's something satisfying about it, hearing the walk and talk that these knives have. Using these tools is just, it's incredibly pleasurable to do. In a world where everything has to be done now, and yesterday isn't fast enough, kind of thing, and we can use these tools that just cause us for a second, when we need a knife to just make us pause and slow down for just a moment to open it, and just that moment of like that half second that we have, just of to slow us down and keep us grounded, and to handle it, and maybe every now and then serve as a reminder of why we're carrying it, or why I'm carrying it, at least. I can't speak for everybody. It's kind of nice to have the multiple blades as well. Of course, like this is the blade, the drop point on this mini trapper that's going to get used more than any other blade on this knife, of course. But the pleasure of that is knowing that when this blade is dull, I've got the spade blade. It's going to be sharper, because I'm not going to probably find as many everyday uses for it. and it's very purpose built. I mean, you know, this is a trapper knife traditionally. I mean, it's made so you have, you know, that spade blade is the same size as the clip point on those, for a purpose. It's for skinning skinning animals that you've trapped for to get the fur, and they're collectible, and they age well. You know, I mean, it's you know, like the patina, and like we already discussed, the patina, the scratches don't have the same character that, you know, like a scratched or chipped polymer type handle, or scratches on the blade on these just don't look as good. They just look a little bit better on a more traditional pocket knife. So so comment, do you carry a traditional pocket knife, or have you considered any of these things before? And do you have any fond memories of watching an elderly neighbor, a grandparent, your parents, or you yourself using one of these knives for like a specific purpose, or carrying one, or anything like that? I'd love to hear from you, and start a good conversation down in the comments. God bless you all. Thank you very much for watching, and click subscribe, click get notifications, all that good stuff, and y'all have a great day. God bless.